Most critics will say that the Audi S3 is a souped-up Golf R, and there's some truth to that. In fact, they run under the same chassis, similar engine, and similar performance numbers. The difference is that the Audi S3 costs more than the Golf R. So the question we want to answer today is this thing worth over the new Golf R? Before we get into that comparison, I want to talk about this because 2022 received a facelift. So we have a new front end, a more aggressive headlights, absolutely love the grille as well. This has the S-Line package, which is actually a blacked out exterior. We have a new bumper design as well, more sporty. Then move on to the side, even the actual mirrors, a slight design. Beautiful wheels with this package. It has the S badge onto the actual brake calipers. And we move on to the back where again, we have the quad exhaust system offered in the previous model as well. And then we have more aggressive tail lights, which really complement the car. And they kind of like fit a little bit with the front headlights. Then, of course, we have the bottom part of the bumper, which has a diffuser, more sporty design, and of course the extended sides. Now, in terms of looks in comparison to the Golf R, well, it comes down to preference. Which one do you like the most? Do you like that Beetle kind of shape style, or do you like this, which is more of a smaller sedan version of the Audi A4? My take would be this is more serious, more conservative, more mature in comparison to the Golf R, which kind of like looks like a boyish kind of design. And of course, it is targeted more of that kind of market. Special thanks for this video goes to Audi Brampton, an Audi dealership located in Brampton, Ontario, Canada. They're kind enough to let us drive this. And what's important today is the fact that I recently drove the new Golf R. So I have a very fresh memory how that drove. And of course, we did drag races. So today, I'm going to compare that to this. If you want to know more about them, the link will be in the description box. Okay, brake all the way down. Launch control activated. Not bad. Not bad at all. That was actually pretty good. Is there a difference with the Golf R that I just recently did the same thing? Yeah, the shifts are so much better. Like you can hear, here's an example of the Golf R launching. Launch control activated. You can hear the difference. The Golf R is like, oh, it's struggling to shift. This is quick. Put your foot down. That's it. There's minimal gap. And there's a difference in actual transmission because this is a 7-speed DCT. Now, the interior also received major updates. With this package, we have the beautiful bucket seat. We have a beautiful steering wheel with no flat bottom for this model specifically. The gear knob has changed. Now it's a little tiny thing that you can move. And we have a different design for the center console. The infotainment display is different touchscreen. And then we move into the cluster, which again, it received major update. The actual dashboard, it is more aggressive. I like that kind of design. There are some differences we'll talk about in terms of the quality versus the Golf R. But for this year, you get a new interior. Let's talk about availability. First of all, here's a few things you need to know, especially for the Canadian market. If you went online right now, trying to find a Golf R, well, it is available, but you're going to pay a ton more. In fact, in Canada, the Golf R starts at about $45,000 or so. Dealerships are charging up to $65,000. And that is a problem with the Golf R specifically. It is very much wanted by the market. There is a huge demand, but there is almost no supply. In fact, some people that I know that have placed an order about a year ago or so, dealers are telling them that, well, there's a chance that you might never get your car. But in this case, the Audi S3, it is more available. In fact, as we picked up this model from Audi Brampton, 2 arrived on the lot. So the interesting part is that both vehicles share the same engine, 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. The Audi S3 makes 306 horsepower, which might be a bit frustrating in fact that this costs more than the Golf R, but the difference is not huge because the Golf R makes 315 brake horsepower, and apparently they both do 0-60 in about 4.5 seconds. Now, where things change is, of course, the transmission. First, the Audi S3 uses a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, but the next thing you need to know is the fact that both vehicles use the same all-wheel drive system. Let's talk about the pricing, because that's very important comparing these two. In Canada, the Golf R starts at about $46,000. Meanwhile, this starts at about $49,000, almost $50,000. There is definitely a price difference, almost $4,000. In the US, you're looking about $44,000 for the Golf R, $46,000 for the Audi S3. But here's the thing though, in this market, we're talking in 2022, finding a car at MSRP, it's pretty hard. I was pretty lucky with my Lexus IS 500 and then I sold it. But finding a Golf R right now, if you went online, the chance of getting one at MSRP is almost impossible because dealerships are actually not getting as many. So what they're doing is they're buying it from some customers or even having their own employees order one, then selling in the market for a used model so they can jack up the price because there's literally limited availability. So the chances of you getting a Golf R at MSRP are pretty hard, I'd say. So at this point, you're kind of left only with this option. If you're watching this from Canada, there's some important news for you. If you're looking to buy the Audi RS3, well, that's gone. You can't buy an Audi RS3 in 2022 in Canada. 2022. In the US, you have the option. Apparently, there was some issue with the emission for Canada, so it couldn't pass the emission, and they canceled it. So the only thing you're left with is this. Let's talk about the interior because this is where things get a bit interesting. You see, the reason why you're paying a bit more for the Audi S3 is because it has a nicer interior. And we have a wireless charging pad in here, 2 USB-C ports, the center console, a little bit similar to the Golf R. The actual shift knob is very similar to that. And then power handbrakes as well. But also you get more room overall because this has a longer wheelbase, has a longer body as well. Then we get into the actual steering wheel, more sporty design. This is the S-Line interior, the cluster as well, a full digital cluster. This doesn't have a heads-up display. After driving the Golf R, I'll say that you can tell there is a slight difference in terms of quality and build design. And the difference in price between the two of them is not huge. Like for example, the Ioniq 5 and the GV60, that's one perfect example. The difference is there, but for the price, I'd say this thing does feel slightly better. But that of course comes down to your own preference. Although they share the same engine, I do think that the Audi S3 has a bit more throaty, more aggressive, deeper noise in comparison to the Golf R. So take a listen. There's another thing that I love about this, the sound. It's deep. It's very throaty, and even from the inside, and when it's under load, you can actually hear it even more. Let's put in manual transmission. There's barely any gap with that manual transmission, and when you're shifting yourself, even in auto, downshift, you can hear the exhaust in this one. It is a bit more noticeable in comparison to the Golf R, and I like that. It also feels a bit more spacious inside in comparison to the Golf R, specific for me because I'm 6'2". And you can actually see it on the inside in the second row from the test. I mean, it is not designed for people like my height. But at the same time, my head fits in. I wouldn't mind a 2-hour trip or 3 hours maximum. This thing is fun. It's enjoyable, and you got no other choice. You either buy a used RS3 or you get this. I like this. I like how it drives. It's nimble. The steering is precise. It's still enjoyable even in comfort mode. The ride is nice. It's quieter on the inside. That I noticed with the Golf R. It was just built different, and of course they have to justify the price increase in comparison to the Golf R. Like the interior feels nice. I love the little details. It says Audi on the actual rim. The camera guy noticed that too. The caliper doesn't say S3 anymore. I believe it just says letter S. I like how this looks on the outside. It's more mature. It feels like the engine here works better with that 7-speed than it does with the 6-speed. Now, that's not to say that the Golf R is not as good as this. There is a difference. And what I'm trying to say is that there is, of course, that noticeable difference in terms of the transmission, the driving experience, the driving dynamics. And the funny part is that even though this one makes less horsepower, apparently they do 0 to 60 within the same time, 4.5 seconds. So that just shows you that this being heavier with a better transmission does as good or similar to the Golf R that makes more horsepower with a different transmission. And the all-wheel drive is the same. I love that you can hear the turbochargers, that spooling. I love that. It's a good touch. It's a nice touch. And I'd rather have it in sport mode, in dynamics, because it's actually not that stiff. It feels normal, even in dynamic, even in comfort. It doesn't change much. The interior feels nice here. It's very welcoming. The cluster, the infotainment display, although not the biggest fan, the fact that this is this piano black all the way around, and then you have darker infotainment layout as well. Like the whole thing is a bit of a weird match, and there's like fingerprints everywhere. Not a big fan of piano black. It looks nice, but man, you have to clean this thing constantly, especially for us shooting today. It was clean at the beginning, and then fingers everywhere, touching everything, of course. It does that. Would I buy this genuinely over the Golf R? Potentially. For myself? Potentially, yes. I see this as being more spacious. The Golf R is special in its own way. It has a different market. I feel like the Golf R is more for people under the age of 30. The difference in price is not massive because don't forget, you're getting that premium feel on the inside. You're driving an Audi versus Volkswagen, even though the fact is that most people don't know that they're the same company. Unless you're a car guy, you'll understand that a lot of things used in this are in the Golf R and vice versa. The interior is more premium. Build up and 6,000 RPM. Oh man, this is nice. I'd really love to have one on my channel to drag race it against the Golf R. If you have one, the new model, please join us for a video. And if you have a Golf R, please do join us for a drag race, because I'd love to see how this thing goes on the straight line against the Golf R. And mostly on a roll, that's another thing I want to see, because the difference in transmission. Maybe this will be on the right gear, because I know the Golf R, past 80 kilometers, it seemed to have a bit of an issue with the transmission. It's not where it should be in terms of the gear. This seems to be where it should, like put your foot down, it downshifted. Nice. I like this. And I think the price increase between this and the Golf R is justifiable. It all comes down which one you like the most and if you're willing to pay a bit extra for this. Simple as that.